gentlemen. It is the eve of another hotfix, and we are live. How's it going, boys?
Hello, everybody. What's up? What's up?
Hello,
Good to see
hello.
you. What episode are we on now? Like 100?
Yeah, this is
111 minus 100.
to it.
111
okay,
minus
okay.
100.
And what
Yes,
hotfix are we
sir.
on? This hotfix?
19.
19, yeah.
A lot to talk about today.
Yep.
Holy
lot.
cow.
I
don't know
honestly
about
don't
you
even know where
guys.
to start.
No kidding.
I'm
I had
genuinely excited.
no clue it was going to be this much.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys turned in for our brother podcast, The Darkest Hour, last night, but they had a banger with Katie on, and SDF and Terrence popped in and gave them a few hints as to what was coming down the pike. And a lot of it I thought was more geared towards the big content patch that's upcoming, but it turns out some of what they were mentioning dropped in this one. And holy cow, did they do a lot. So yeah, I'll turn it over to you guys. Initial thoughts. I know Ken was at least the knee-jerk portion of the reaction was not favorable.
So I was just talking about the few things that I focus on the negatives initially. Like whenever, like overall, generally the patch has lots of good things. I think we'll know more when we get into the game and play with it. But I was just highlighting some of my concerns, like I always do. But we'll get to that eventually. There's a lot to unpack. I don't really know where you guys want to start. Maybe so. About what catches your eye? Where you want to start with this? We have a lot to talk about.
I mean, I think the overarching for the majority of players is going to be the loot changes. So we can start from the top there. I think that would also affect the entirety of the player base. Personally, I thought that this last patch was a W. We got a lot closer to balance, but the loot did feel a little bit off. I kind of liked it, especially this podcast. We talk a lot about gray lobbies and sort of equalization of gear. I want to say 95% of players were just objectively poor, just straight poverty line. And so I like the fact that we are going to see more uncommon and rare loot, which is green and blue. I think that's going to give everybody a better feeling, especially the casual players who have an hour or two here or there. They're actually going to come in and get a gear set. So overall, I think the loot increase is a W. Of course, we'll wait and we'll see where they turn that dial, because not only is it a loot increase, it's also more treasure. And so I think the economy will be flowing again. The trade has been lackluster, so this is a W for me.
Yeah, I do agree that there isn't enough gold in the economy. But just to play devil's advocate, I think we also don't have enough gold sinks. So in a perfect world with like a healthy economy, we want there to be readily available gold for players to build wealth. But the other side of that is we want lots of avenues to spend that gold and buy things and get it in circulation and then out of circulation quickly. The problem we've had in previous playtests is that it was very easy to build wealth. Everyone will sit on tens of thousands of gold, and then they had nothing to spend it on, except for like the other players buy things off the marketplace, which doesn't actually get the gold out of circulation. It just trades hands with somebody else. So I like the fact that we can get gold again, but in the future we should have more ways to spend it. I think the stash tab changes were good. That's a good way for almost every player in the game to minus 3,000 gold for something that is worth 3,000 gold. So that's good. But more things along those lines would be good in the future. But yeah, that's just my opinion on that.
I agree.
Agreed. Yeah, for me, I know we're going to talk a lot about the class changes, but for me, the thing that stood out the most, if we're just kind of recapping what caught our eye, for me was definitely the Cleric changes, because I play a lot of Cleric, and we took a little bit of a licking from the old nerf stick, and I think most of it was deserved, honestly. Like, I feel like most of those, I mean, time will tell, we'll get in there and play around a little bit, but I think those are all livable changes. But the one thing that really kind of counteracted all of that for me was the fact that we're going to be able to just sit down and rest and get spells back. So they were combat related nerfs, right? They were mostly combat related nerfs, but the big buff is the idea that now I don't need meditate. Like, the spell regen seems like it's going to be insane just resting.
Yeah, the clerics, I do agree. Clerics definitely needed a change in nerf for sure. I'm not sure if I would have hit their holy light or their lesser heal. And don't even get me started on Locust Swarm.
Why even touch it?
I was talking to someone earlier, and I was like, "There's probably one guy out there. There's probably one spell damage stacking cleric who is like running around lobbies destroying people, and they're looking at the stats and they're like, Locust Swarm has 100% success rate. This is ridiculous. We gotta handle this now. And that's the only reason I could think of, because that's like crazy. Nobody's using that spell. That spell
Right.
is so weak. I've tried using it. It is dog water.
Oh, it's terrible.
That
Yeah,
yeah.
especially compared to Earthquake.
I love the Holy Strike changes though. Like we were talking about this last week and the week before.
Yep.
This is
Basically,
the
lightning strike
exact
now.
yeah. There's a small delay on Holy Strike on where you shoot it and when it lands. It makes it a little bit harder to hit, but it should be a little bit harder to hit 'cause it was way too easy to hit previously. I think that was a good change.
Yep.
I know I understand why they're addressing Earthquake. I think Earthquake is a bit of a problematic spell in general, but I'm not sure if lowering the number of spells you have really fixes the problem that it has. Like, so it only takes one Earthquake. You only need one, right, to
Yep.
win a fight. So even if you have the number of Earthquakes you could cast in a fight, you still only need the one. So
Mhm.
it just seems like a bit of a non-solution, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
I don't really like the Holy Light or the Lesser Heal reduction in spells. I don't think that's the problem with Cleric. But what are your initial opinions with the Cleric changes?
I mean, they iron hammered that for sure.
Mhm.
They hit it across the board. I really like your synopsis of all of it. I don't mind the lesser heal. Both heals being reduced by one spell count, I think is good. But then I feel like they went a step above and beyond by increasing cast times and lowering the base heal
Everything.
of the like. We really stomped on the cleric there, and so I'm sure we're gonna peel that back a little bit as typical with Iron Mace. But I kind of like it. I like when they shake things up fundamentally, and here Cleric just got straight iron hammered. So kind of nice. At least it finally happened. I'm for it.
Sorry, just the beat a dead horse. I've not been a fan of Iron Mace's method of nerfing classes in the past, where
Mhm.
there is an ability that is inherently too strong, right? And their solution to that is to lower the number of times you can cast that spell instead of addressing the actual power level of the spell. It's
Mhm.
happened to me personally many times with Wizard, like, oh, Zap is too strong, Fireball's too strong, Ice Bolt's too strong. We're gonna lower the amount of spells that you can cast of that instead of addressing the actual power level of the spell, that the problematic spell. Because nothing feels worse in this game than running out of spells and not having anything to do. Like, that is one of those feel bad moments I always come back and talk about. Running out of spells, having no spells to cast, that isn't good. I would rather them just nerf how much it heals, reduce the casting, but keeping the quantity of spells because you want your players to have things to do in the game.
I agree
Uh,
with that, but I think because Cleric was the most roundabout character in the game with the most mid to close range effectiveness, when you run out of those spells, you always have your utility skill like Judgment and or Smite, plus you're a strong melee class, and typically they wear plate now. So
Mhm.
it's like they can carry the team and just not quite as hard. So I don't mind. I agree with you on the Wizard. That was overhanded when they were always taking the spells away, but here I actually think that we might keep this level of spells indefinitely. Like they'll just dial a little bit, but I think overall the cleric having a bit less is actually a good thing.
Maybe. So I think
Maybe.
I think their spells getting nerfed as a result of their class being too powerful as a whole, and I just don't think that's the way you should balance it. Like the
Mhm.
problem with cleric is that you're the best spellcaster and you're also a fighter, and you're also a healer. It's like you do everything very well. I would have rather them maybe address the durability of the cleric instead of their spell count, or just address the power level of the heal instead of the quantity. But like I said, I think it's still going to be fine. Cleric is still probably going to be the most played class beside Rogue still, but it just feels like a bad ideology for balancing in general.
Yeah, I think they
So
might. So we talked about this a little bit before, where we thought one of the solutions might be to get that trade off. If you want to wear plate, then it slows your cast speed, or it gives your spell a chance to fail when you're casting, right? Like kind of D&D style. Like that, I think is probably the direction they need to go. But I don't know if they have those systems in place, ready baked, that they can just throw out there. So this is probably a band-aid solution for now, I hope.
Mm.
But in the future, I'd like to see something more like that.
mm, yeah, we talked about that last week. That's like the perfect solution in my opinion, and maybe they're aware of it. It seems like they understand the problem is there, but they wanted a fast, snappy solution.
Right.
So
Yep.
hopefully they address it in the future. Maybe change the power level of
Yep.
armor for casting specifically. Hopefully.
Yep.
We'll see though.
Well, that's Cleric. Cleric's got nerfed. Who else got nerfed? Bard took a couple hits, I guess. It's really the only other class that I feel like took a hit.
I
Bard
actually feel like
kind of
Bard
got
got
nerfed.
buffed. Like their
Bard armor got
rebalance.
nerfed. Yeah, definitely a fluctuation of power.
Yeah, like they got more base attributes, less luck, and less range. But I think the Song of Silence thing is going to be a little bit overlooked, but is now absolutely meta.
Well,
Now you silence only enemies.
so we're gonna read this. This is my biggest like problem with this patch is that we have already been here. We have already lived in the meta with silence being like this. If you remember, but this is how silence was up 2 months ago when in the first leaderboard round of the season when the meta was bard, rogue, wizard, or bard, barbarian, cleric. It was simply you send in your front line and the bard is right behind them playing the guitar and silencing everybody and turning off the entire enemy's kit, and it is lame.
Yep.
There should it doesn't matter if it's bard, doesn't matter anything. There should not be an ability in this game that completely turns off another character's kit. It's just a fundamental flaw in game design. I think,
especially as an AOE.
Especially as an AOE that is spammable with no resource management, and it's a relatively fast cast. Like it's a super annoying ability.
So dumb question. I never use that. The second that you leave the AOE, do you gain the ability back?
Persist.
So all he has to do is get in range to hit
once,
and then the 7 seconds starts ticking.
It wasn't a very used ability often, but at the high levels, like the top end bards understood the power level of it, and basically what fights would come down to is both teams have a bard, and it'd be whatever bard gets in range of the silence first would win that fight because both the bards would be trying to silence each other. And once one bard silences the other bard can't silence the other bard. So it turns the fight into like a really annoying, lame, and boring like range fight with songs. I don't know. It's my problem isn't like my anger doesn't come from like them making this mistake of like making this ability. Is we've already done this. We've been here before. This has already been a huge problem that you have solved. You've solved it. You fixed the problem, and now you're reintroducing the problem. This like gives me huge vibes of +3 all attributes being a problem, removing them, and then bringing them back again. Like that's what this feels like to me, and that is just frustrating from the outside looking in. Hopefully the range nerfs are enough to make it like manageable, but previously it was the worst meta to play was that bard silence meta. For me, as I mean, I'm a biased caster, but I'm not the only one who's affected. Like bards are affected, clerics are affected, warlocks and wizards. Like half the classes in the game, kits are completely turned off by this ability. It's lame. So yeah, that's just my rant about that. They're probably gonna hotfix and change it back because it creates those feel bad moments that I always talk about.
Yep. Mr. Duke of Warlocks, what do you think?
No, I agree with Ken here. I also think he has more expertise at the upper echelons of play. And in general, the idea of an area of effect silence that's repeatable is not a good mechanic. And although the range and max was halved, I agree with him. I think all the best bards in the world are now just going to push for silence. That like they'll just play silence as often as possible. Now that the Barbarian was buffed as well, you just get the Barbarian in there and he's going to slaughter. I felt like he was meta before this patch, and now they've buffed him immensely, in my opinion. They've given them more tools. It's one of the few classes that wasn't rebalanced. It was just buffed. And I already felt like it was strong. And so now, in my opinion, it's going to be even stronger, especially Achilles Strike having a 4-second slowdown, and you can apply it on them with your Lantern. That is a toxic new thing that's going to be. We're going to have the Bard silencing. The Barbarian only has to slow one person for 4 seconds. That person's dead as hell. The fight's already lost for the team that gets hit first by that.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating.
So I like a lot of this, but I agree with Nate here. There's quite a bit of L between the cracks of the dubs, and this is a major patch. But thankfully, we only have another week or so before the wipe, so hopefully some of this will get dialed back.
Yeah, this is a W patch for sure. I know we're highlighting the negatives like right off the rip, but the negatives are frustrating because these are problems that have very obvious solutions that have been solved in the past already, and Iron Mace is kind of dropping the ball on fixing the very obvious issues, and It's just frustrating hotfix after hotfix, them not addressing how strong barbarians are, or like addressing them in the wrong way, or nerfing other classes because of how much HP a barb has. Like that's just where my frustration comes from. Because think about how many abilities in this game have been completely neutered because they are broken on the barb class specifically. Like bards have been destroyed. We're nerfing like cleric heals now because healing a barbarian is one of the strongest things you could be doing. You're nerfing all the wizard abilities because buffs on the barbarian are problematic. So when are they going to realize that the problem is the barbarian and there are easy ways to fix it? There's such easy ways to fix it. Like I was talking to Soma a little while ago and I was saying, dude, what if you just made it so barbarians, their base stat line was 0 will. So their buff duration was super low. So they didn't get much benefit from buffs. Like that is a point and click solution that would fix the meta overnight. But no, we're gonna sit here and turn the knobs and dials on every other class except for barbarian. Sorry, I'm gonna stop.
No, it's
W pat.
It's
W
now
pat.
going to be a barbarian thing. So as we know, we like to complain about something each week, typically for 10 minutes. I think now we're gonna have to put barbarians in there, and we already had rangers in there. I've been complaining about them for ages. And speaking of things that are L's,
ranger buffs.
How could they buff ranger? No way was anyone anywhere in this world asking for that. And not only was it buffed a little bit, it was buffed a shitload. Bow damage buffed. The slow from crippling shot almost doubled, and the double damage from bow mastery. Like, what the hell? John Quincy Iron Mace's son loves Ranger, and it shows. That there's no other way around this one.
All of the problematic things with Ranger, except for traps. And if next topics they're like, dude, we are doubling the trap duration, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I would not be surprised. Dude, I had a very
traps
fun...
can stack to 4 now.
I had a very fun stream yesterday. I was playing with End Boss. Like, I had a great time. We were having some good fights. It was great. And then I stepped in a trap, and it just ruined my night. I just stepped in a trap, and I lost like a 10,000 gold kit. And I'm like, this guy, no offense to the Ranger, but you didn't do anything. I lost by walking through a doorway, and it is frustrating. It was just, all right, yeah, whatever. Fuck Rangers.
As a Ranger main this last leaderboard, and even so, I would say now, what is going on, man? Let's nerf us. I can't believe we got buffed. But okay, well, hey, so that one's done.
For crippling shot, does anyone use that skill? Honestly,
I have used it.
I feel like
always.
That was a slept-on perk. Really, you use it? Okay.
All right. It doubles the slow. You slow them with the arrow, and then you also slow them with crippling shot. So if you actually hit somebody in the leg and you have the perk, you see 2 debuffs get activated, and the crippling shot lasts longer. So now, also, anybody that I'm afraid of who I need to slow is typically going to have a shield. I'm talking about clerics or fighters. Everybody else you can just kill. You just kill outright. You just do enough damage. But the PDR players, I would always shoot in the feet because they're walking forward with the shield or they're crouch jumping. Just feet shots indefinitely for me. And they are never going to catch me. I just kite back, feet shot, triple shot to the feet. And so I'm obviously excited that I'm going to be even more broken. But what? Yeah, I always took crippling. Spear mastery, chase, crippling, headshot. But now I'm going to swap headshot out for bow mastery because that's damage everywhere. That's 10% damage.
That's a no-brainer.
Not damage, but 10% power.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so moving forward in the class list, we also have Fighter getting pretty substantial buffs, actually. Slayer is going to be coming forward.
Spike. Oh, gosh, yeah.
So that's meta.
That's kind of surprising, too. I'm glad that you mentioned that because one of the more recent topics of conversation has been how Slayer Fighter is getting to be a little bit of a problem, and they just exacerbated that to the nth degree with adrenaline spike.
Yeah, those are going to be everywhere.
I was talking about it earlier about Slayer Fighter specifically, and I was talking about how I feel like Slayer Fighter is the perfect class. Like it is, I think that's the power level that most classes should be. It's like it's strong, but manageable,
but killable. Yeah, it's killable.
Yeah, but killable. Yeah, it doesn't feel
especially
like it does
in
anything.
Team comp. In solo, it feels pretty oppressive, but team, yes, go. Sorry.
So yeah, so my expertise is mostly in like 3v3 and 2v2. I don't really play much Goblin Case. So I don't know how busted it is in 1v1s, but it feels like they have tools for every situation, but they're not like broken at any one thing, and they feel extremely balanced. And I feel like if we could get the power level of these other classes to what Slayer Fighter feels like, we're gonna have a very good feeling game. I don't think it needed a buff. I don't think these buffs are going to break it by any means. But it's cool, I guess. We'll see more Slayers, which is fun. But,
Yeah, well, I think they were already balanced, but
that's what I'm saying.
now it's tipped in their favor. Like it was, I like what you said. I think most classes needed to get there where they've got some poke, some pressure, and some peel is kind of the best case scenario. But I think with this adrenaline spike thing, plus they reduced the debuff on adrenaline rush, which I already felt like was fair and balanced. You can usually win the fight before that debuff hits you, or like the tides have already turned. But now that's halved, and then adrenaline spike is for sure meta and lasts forever. It's like 8 to 12 second action and movement speed or what have you.
Plus
That
what
is
if your
going to be
will
very
is-
oppressive. Like when you start winning, you're almost going to start losing. Except against barbarians, who will just be life siphoning. So that's just going to be like a crazy back and forth. But yeah, that'll be strong. Also, the Armet gains strength over resourcefulness, but that's a good change.
Yep.
I think everybody expected that. And then I will say across the board, they've nerfed a lot of the chest armors to have higher movement speed penalties and less armor. So I think that will sort of balance a lot of these little things out as well. That's going to for sure hit barbarians who use padded. Also, the Northern Full Tunic was nerfed, and Slayers will be nerfed by the padded changes as well.
Yeah, I actually really like the changes to barbarian gear. Like this is what they are addressing this problem correctly, I believe. The problem the barbarian has been like they're the biggest HP stat stick, and now their gear is being addressed, so they can't just stack armor anymore. So that's good. I like that. That's a big W. I think we should talk about some more of, like the gear changes, because I think this is some like the biggest W part of the patch is all the changes to gear. Like they're giving each individual unique piece their unique stats. Their the bard instrument changes. I'm not sure if they're going to be good, but I do like that each individual instrument has a different stat on it, so you can it makes gearing on bard a lot easier. There are like problems with bard where you want a certain amount of intel or knowledge for spells, then you want some resourcefulness for your speed, and then you're still trying to stack normal stats. But adding stats to instruments kind of solves this issue in a sense. So that's kind of good. Sorry, I went like a random ramble there, but we're talking about fighter.
That was good, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think Slayer Fighter is going to be busted. I think these are buffs for sure. I think they didn't need buffs. I think Slayer Fighters are still going to be. I could be wrong. They could be busted. Actually, I'm reading some of these notes. The adrenaline spike
really
is
strong.
actually kind of crazy.
It's super strong. Yeah.
Yeah, it lasts a long time. 40% health. That's
we'll see. We'll see.
They'll
be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Also, you could actually now mix that with second wind. So once you spike adrenaline, you just second wind, and now you keep your buffs and your healing. So that could be. Anyway, I thought they were balanced. Now I feel like they're going to be a bit imba, a little bit too strong, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Before we dive into gear, let's talk about the rest of the class changes since we're on like the topic of the class.
My chat's saying the game's up and that the lizard is awesome. I'm glad we got 3 colors for it. So we'll definitely be rocking that after the podcast. Wizards.
Can you not wear hats on a lizard?
Nope. I kind of like that. That's really interesting.
I mean, that would be great. But this is the one patch. This is the first patch ever where wizard hats actually give stats.
Yeah.
The first time. Last patch, I would have been the biggest wizard fan out there. But now I want my magic power. It's bad timing.
I mean, also, most hats are going to have at least 15 armor plus headshot protection. So unless their heads are, I want to say like 45% smaller, I'm probably not going to be rocking lizard. No helmet, that's a lot of stat loss.
Yeah.
That's potentially like 10 to 15 health at least.
Depending on your class, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Wizard shoes.
Well, I mean, a lot of us have been wearing ruby silvers, like that's 3 strength base, no movement speed penalty.
Yeah, let's just dive into the wizard because I'm here and
yes, the wizard.
I'm not gonna start. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll start with the mellow take. Invisibility is useless. That is a horrible change. Why would we want to leave an after image? It was already easy to track them via steps if you were paying attention, and it was their one tool to slip away, and it didn't even slip them away for that long. The after image thing, every 1.5 seconds, that's a dead spell in my opinion. I wish that they had changed it to a self-cast only. Compared to that, I don't really know what the purpose of that will be other than aggro swapping, but at that point you might as well just have an invis potion. And then I like the spell recharging. What else changed? Oh, haste.
The haste.
Haste.
Interesting, but also like
Yeah,
another
interesting.
unnecessary change. Like, my problem is that we are changing the wizard class because
Mhm.
of barbarians again,
Yes, agreed.
and this is a reoccurring theme that how many classes in this game are going to be changed because they fundamentally failed designing the barbarian class.
Mhm.
And I got to get in there and actually test how invisibility feels, but I'm sure it's dog shit.
I, I
And
could I could see like a little bit though with the warlock change. Well, you can like you haste yourself and then you haste the warlock, and now you have like I don't know. I want to make an excuse for it, but I agree with you. They fundamentally changed wizard and nerfed it realistically, to not buff the barbarian, and then they
yep.
buffed the barbarian anyway.
So
So
wizards has 78 HP and no PDR, and our one way to defend ourselves, our one way is to be slightly mobile, and also be able to use invisibility a couple of times. Like that is the only way we can survive. We don't have that anymore. So now, unless we have a big, juicy frontline barbarian to keep us safe, we are just dead. It almost makes it that you need a barbarian now as a wizard, which is part of the problem to begin with. Is
mhm.
I just why not just make it so we can't target others? Why
Yeah,
completely
self-cast, yeah.
change the spells? It's like they understand that buffing the barbarian is a problem, so they're gonna make it so this spell doesn't do anything for the barbarian. But why not just make it so we can't target the barbarian?
Yep.
It's a non-solution. It's just frustrating. Like I said,
So it
hopefully I
sounds
get in there.
like sorry,
Sorry.
so do you feel like having extra spellcast speed at your disposal is still gonna be viable?
I
Do you
mean, I'll
pick that
probably use
up
it.
as a spell?
It'll be good. It'll increase my damage per second. But the problem with wizard has never been its damage per second.
Right.
So in a sense, you've buffed wizard damage, which you don't want to do. You want our damage to be lower because you want to keep damage low in general in the game, and you just lowered our mobility. So now we're just a free target for any ranger, any fighter with a crossbow. We can't escape once we get jumped on. We can't
Yeah.
outrun anybody anymore. Like I said, I haven't played with it yet. This is purely speculation. I could go in there and maybe it's the best thing in the world, and I'm sure it's not. But
Nah, it's an L. You guys are dead. I feel like the Slayer's buffed now. This like a new meta comp is probably gonna be Slayer, Bard, or like Slayer, Barb, Cleric. I feel like could be really good. Probably Rangers back in a lot of the comps. Like you said, when they got on you before, you were pretty much already dead. But at least the fast, smart wizards would do haste and kind of slip away for temporarily. But I don't like this change on haste. That was like a really good tool for you guys, and it took a lot to use it. And wizards were already pretty high skill cap. They hurt. That hurt too much,
yeah,
I think.
it feels like wizards were already the weakest they've been in a very long time with like the gear changes. Like I feel like wizards was hit the hardest with the changes to gear because like there's not much damage. But I was okay with it. That's fine. I understand that's good for the health of the game. I'm okay with that. But then have the patch afterwards feels like salt in the wound, and
Mm.
I'm a little sad. I'll be honest. I'm a little sad. Like I'm still gonna make it work. I'm still gonna go in there. I'm still gonna kill people. But I understand for every one of me, there's 100 other wizards who just want to like shoot some spells and they're gonna get destroyed. And I feel bad for those people.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What
All right,
about
so
the
who's left?
Rouge?
The Rogue?
The
Yeah, the old
Rouge,
Rouge.
our
Why don't you
favorite.
start us off, Arcane?
I actually had to read through this because that's the one I paid the least amount of attention to. They got buffs on what hand crossbows and crossbows, right?
And daggers.
And
swords.
that's right. Yes,
And
yes,
cutthroat.
yeah.
And swords, yes.
The double jump change is what everybody was talking about in chat, though.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't know because I put a moratorium on me playing Rogue after PT5, and I've only used double jump when it was like completely broken. I haven't used it since it got the movement speed debuff on landing. So I don't know how this is going to play out. I've heard a couple people say this seems completely fair. Heard other people say this is a huge L. So I don't know what to think about that. I think the weak point attack change is probably fine. Cutthroat 50% cooldown reduction seems a little excessive. Feel like they could have split the difference there. Yeah, I mean, a few of those things, and we know they needed a little buff back to their weapon damage. We know that with the way that stats are rolling now. But some of this other stuff seems like it might be a little too much.
Yeah, so basically the double jump changes, just to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
They're basically saying we fucked up by introducing double jump. We're going to keep nerfing it, but we're never actually going to remove it from the game and admit that we made a mistake by making this ability. That's what that feels to me. I still think even with the movement speed changes, most rogues are going to take it still. It's just too strong of an ability. It just we're all the other players in this game are playing checkers, and when rogues have double jump, they're playing 3D chess. They're
Right.
they're fighting on a whole other dimension with terrain abuse that is oppressive and annoying. I'm not going to say it's OP, but it's just a frustrating ability that should have never been in the game. And Iron Mace is going to keep nerfing until eventually one day they're going to remove it if they're smart.
No, they're gonna
That was
double
my
down.
takeaway. Yeah, they're
No,
gonna double
Double
down.
down.
they're
I
gonna go
know.
wall running. They talked about
I
wall
mean,
running being an ability.
I
also the idea of multiclassing, at least I think for this, if other classes can take one perk, which I think multiclassing will look like from any other class, let's just say, that does put it in a spot that would affect all classes equally. Everybody would be slower, but everybody could double jump. Could kind of see that almost working, at least like a little bit, especially since every class now has range damage to like prevent the sort of cheesing. And in a way would draw us to the most cheesable points on the map for Iron Mace to either fix or for everyone to just look. Because we already look at cheese spots kind of anyway, especially when we have sounds.
Just interrupt you so bad. Do
Mhm.
you want to live in a world where I could double jump fireball you? Do you want to live in that reality?
I mean, you can't haste. I'll just shoot you twice and you're dead.
You'll shoot me in the leg because I jump so
Yeah,
high.
oh my god! Imagine the debuff, 25% slow when you jump. That's over.
I don't, dude. I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I actually
It's
could
gonna be
kind
Quake
of
Legends.
like the thing is, you taking double jump when you could be taking poison or crush. So like the idea of changing the entire foundation of the game to give everybody a little taste of everybody else actually does appeal to me. Do you want
Now,
double jump? Like, does everybody want that, or does everybody want,
I would take
adrenaline
it.
spike?
I think people want the choice. So Nate, you talked about that a
Yeah.
lot. Give people the choice for skill expression, and that was brought up last night too,
Mhm.
where SDF Veterans mentioned that they are working towards. I don't think it's in the near future, but one of the parts of their vision or something that's being talked about. Let's just say that. Keep it safe. Something that's being talked about is working towards multi-classing, and I can
Yep.
see that if you're going to handpick a few perks or skills from each class to offer up to other classes to study and tap into. I could see double jump being one of those skills.
Mhm. Same.
Mhm. I could see it. I'm just saying, if I could double jump on Wizard, I'm rank 1 in a week. That's all I'm saying. It's ridiculous.
I'll take
You heard
that
it here,
back. So
folks.
the double jumping Rangers are going to put you down.
Yeah, because everyone else is going to have it. Because like I said, we're talking about a very specific ability that everybody
know.
wants because
I-
that,
like,
that
I-
one perk is so strong.
I hear you saying that, but I also think like I would never take double jump if I could take poison on the Ranger. Now I poison with every arrow. Think about
Yeah,
how that would
no
affect
kidding.
serve bow.
Oof, oof.
Like I said,
Yeah.
multi-classing in theory sounds very cool, and I would
Mhm.
actually be excited for it. But think about they've spent so much time and effort doing all of this balancing, and they would throw it out the window with multi-classing. Which okay, I get it, but then why focus on balancing so much if we're gonna multi-class soon? That's
Gotta have
kind
a
of my takeaway
baseline.
from it.
I think
Yeah.
they gotta
You
have a
gotta have a
baseline to start
baseline.
from.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I hear what you're saying, but I actually do think if you only had access to one perk, that actually opens up a vast amount of possibilities for building interesting classes and throwing off your opponent. But
So
yeah,
real
I
quick,
don't know. We'll see.
multi-classing, just first impressions, what would you run if you had the option to multi-class? I have an idea what I would do.
Yeah, go for it.
I would play Weapon Master Fighter with a Spellbook and Spell Memory 1. That's what I would play. I
Yeah,
would
but
have Sprint,
you can't take skills. It's one perk.
one perk. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't get a skill. Fuck. Damn, never mind. Game trash.
I think that's a good place to start as far as multi-classing goes, because it does
Yeah,
give
I
you
would
like
just say double jump on Wizard then.
you could
That's
take like
boring
lockpick
and
or like
OP.
I don't know. I think poison is really interesting.
Poison and Ranger would be crazy though, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Poison
that especially
Ranger.
serve bow, that'd be nuts. The quad shot, you just stacked 4 poison on them. It's over. It's
I could
over.
play Ignite Poison Crystal Sword.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're cooking.
Trying to think what the cleric would want to take. What perk would the cleric want? Any perks from the wizard? I can't think
What
of
about
any.
reactive shield? That'd be like a free damage fall off.
It's kind of weak though.
Eh,
It might be better. It might be better on the fighter though. If you have like PDR and stuff, you get more value
Mhm.
out of that 10 HP.
mm.
That's interesting. Or dude, fighters would take they would take ice armor for the flat armor.
Oh
the
yeah, and the slow.
yeah, and the slow.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty interesting.
Oh, I like chat says wizard with weapon master, and now you can have a longsword.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, maybe like a
Nice.
spellblade.
Or weapon
Yeah,
master
there's a
cleric.
lot of things you
And
could
a
do
bow.
here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, as cleric, I mean, weapon master would probably be the most popular one by far. Just giving you,
Mhm.
as a cleric, the ability to wield a blade would be top notch. We're so
Yeah.
limited.
Or like my
Yeah.
chat says, you just take the luck perk from Bard on Rogue. Now you just go around.
Oh,
you just
jeez.
Oh,
Yeah, game
dude,
over.
the gold
Game
farmers,
over.
baby.
No, it's
The
over.
gold bar.
No.
It's now 12 rogues.
Multiclassing's
in HR.
out. Get it out. No
Speaking
more
of,
multiclassing. Jeez.
Yeah,
Speaking of,
multiclassing would be interesting if they start small. Like I'm
That's a small
I'm
Yeah,
excited
yeah.
for it, but
yeah.
this double jump I think would be a problem on every because who wouldn't want double jump? It would just turn into Quake Legends with everybody double jumping around. I don't know. I'm excited. I mean, I think it'll be cool and interesting and a nightmare to balance, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, what's next on the list? We talked about
Map
fighter
changes.
barbarians. Map changes. What about the maps? I don't
They
have the patch list pulled up
increased
right now.
player counts back
They
up
increased
to
the player counts
18.
On Crips, huge.
In Crips.
Good start.
Yes.
Should be more, but I'll take it.
Yep.
I think we should have at least 20. 21 is probably the right number. I was reading the notes earlier, and it was an interesting thought. So it says Crips max player count is 18,
Mm-hmm.
and Inferno is 15,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you can take the red static portal infinitely. So what
Are you
happens
sure
if you
it's
have
infinite?
I've seen 7 people go down there, so
They did say it was infinite, yeah.
yeah. So you could, in theory, get 18 out of 15 in Inferno if everybody in your lobby goes to the portal. I'm just curious what happens if we do that. Do people get sent to the ether? do we break the game?
I was thinking they would just close all the red portals. Like if you hit 15, then sorry, no more red portals can open. Or when you try to walk through them, you get some message that says this
Inferno
magic
is
is
full.
blocked. Yeah, right. Basically, yeah.
That's crazy to think.
Yep.
Well, we'll have to try that one of these days. Or try to get 18.
Hey, I would love to live in that world, man, where people are going down to Inferno and fighting like crazy and leaving the crypts to the rest of the Timmies to loot like crazy. That's probably good for the game.
Big fan of the 18, the player count change. Like I want more people in the game. I know I might have like a hot take where I want as many people as possible to just have a crazy time. But more the merrier, in my opinion.
All right.
The servers can handle it.
What about this arena that they've been mentioning? I feel like we're stripping a lot of ideas from Tarkov, which is good. But I don't feel like we need an arena, but at the same time, that could be where a lot of competition takes place, and you could kind of figure out what the real meta would be for trios or what have you. What do you guys think about that? It seems like it's pretty high on their priority list to be mentioning it already.
Yeah.
So, what is it? Sorry, that's the first time I'm hearing of this. Or
they just said they're interested in building an arena. To me, that sounds like 3v3. You probably just queue up, you go. I would guess it's gear based. You just take their gear, and then you can re-queue and go again. I could see that being very popular.
It's interesting. I just don't know if that's what this game wants to be. If they want to be, they should commit to that. I mean, I would do it. I mean, 3v3 fights. The combat in this game is so fun that whatever gets me to have more of it, I'm for. But I don't but it feels like it would take away from the overall immersion of going into a raid, slogging through the dungeon with the boys, killing mobs, running through traps, looting. I feel like it takes away from that. But in a vacuum, it sounds cool.
Also, I agree with that, but also at the top end, once you've had your loot, we typically just spawn rush anyway. Once you're looted and your bank is full, at that point, most people are just spawn rushing. And so it would take some of those teams and place them in a queue to fight each other to allow the Timmies to then go about their looting experience. So
that's a good point.
I think maybe at the top end, it would take away some of the bloodthirsty players and put them somewhere where they can slack that thirst.
And we said it before, like if they would do something along these lines as like an event, it would be cool. Like imagine, oh dude, this weekend we're gonna have the King's tournament, boys.
Yes.
Go into the dungeon and build up your wealth so you could use your sweet new joust gear in the tournament, and
Mhm.
that stuff's cool. Because that would add to you wanting to go into the dungeon, killing sweet bosses, acquiring awesome loot to go risk it in the tournament later. Like
Yes. Yep.
that in my
Yeah,
mind, that
I
would be
like that
the
idea.
ideal.
That's
Yep.
perfect. Like 1 weekend a month or something, the King's
Yeah,
tournament.
yeah.
Just do it every
Even
weekend,
weekly would be
man. I mean,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
do it
yeah.
every weekend.
I like it.
Shrine nerfs. Shrine nerfs were significant.
Yes. Yes,
Huge.
finally.
Finally, yeah.
Needed.
Like you said,
You're still gonna go
yeah.
for them, but
Yeah,
it's not
you're
gonna
gonna pick 'em
spike
up.
you by like 25%
Right.
power for free because you were shrine camping.
Like
Yep.
yesterday, for instance, like me and Mboss were playing Ruins, and we killed a cleric, and then the bard was still alive, and he ran to a speed shrine, and even though we were 2v1, I'm like, that's a barbarian with a speed shrine. We
Bye.
can't even fight him
Get
2v1.
out.
We're
Right.
just the game has been paused for 45 seconds. We're gonna run to the other side of the map and wait so we can go fight this barbarian because we're not dealing with this shit. They're just so strong. But yeah, the nerfs were necessary.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm a very, very big W on that end.
Also, big W on the affix changes, bringing up the minimum so you don't get like a 0.1%
huge,
action
yes,
speed or like
agreed.
a 1 armor rating. You're like, ugh, dead roll basically.
Right.
Those are really good. And the fact that they brought up the non-meta affixes and buffed them dramatically, like regular and magical interaction speeds,
Mhm.
I like that because there was a big post about it on Reddit, was bringing up the minimums and also adding in some new ones, which we talked about last week as well, like demon slaying, undead slaying,
Right.
plus to luck. Just things that you get more rolls on, even if they're not involving PvP or balance per se, are
Mhm.
good, I think, for this game. And so I would like to
Definitely.
see more sort of Diablo-esque affixes. And then it also helps dramatically the new players, especially if they're getting more greens and blues and they just are filled with like PvE slaying and luck. That's just going to help them build up to where they need to be. So I like that change. I think we're heading in a really good direction with loot.
Totally agree.
Also, on the topic of luck, what the hell's with these bard luck nerfs? That felt kind of mean.
Well,
bards are down bad. Now we're gonna hit the luck too.
Yeah, but now that they gave them silence, they realize that the new buff ball is just the
Yeah.
bard silencing everybody. It's like they gotta do a little bit. Yeah.
So in true Iron Maid's fashion, like, to balance how broken they're gonna be silencing everybody, we're gonna hit the luck a little bit, but to punish the solo eco Nozori bard player. Just like I want to see Nozori's reaction to reading that specific nerf, because he's like
That
one of the
does hurt.
the
Yeah,
solo
that
eco
one.
bard
That's what I
players.
do, man. I solo eco bard a lot.
Mhm.
If I'm not playing cleric, that's the way I typically play. So that hurts. We'll have to see it. But
drink a luck potion like the rest of us.
But we do get better. We get more green and blue items in normal dungeons, so maybe that'll offset a little bit of that pain.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what else we got here?
So one of the other topics was taking away VoIP in base camp in the
Thank
loading
God.
lobby.
Yeah.
So
You like that?
You like that? A lot of
Yeah,
other
I
people
asked for
did
it a
not.
lot. It's like the thing is that's where a lot of the teaming can form. I also think that like last night, 2 games in a row. Affects me personally, so of course I'm going to be biased. But somebody just 2 times in a row they dropped in named So Bad Cringe, and they were just screaming the N word, and they even had a soundboard with racist slurs on it that they were just spamming. And so like at least it makes them come to me in the dungeon, and then I can just kill the hell out of them. So that cuts down on the negative aspects a little bit. I did like VoIP. And so that part, like, I wish it would just go back to what we said, where like this is a step in the right direction, but I think we shouldn't even be able to inspect. Just put us back in the whale boxes, so you can just visually see other groups, and then just like wave or use emotes. And I think that's fine, because especially when the game comes to Steam and consoles and the phone later next year, like the lobbies are going to fill fast. You're going to be dropping anyway. Remember in like PT 1 through 5, you would join the match and it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're in.
Right.
Right now, there's like some disparity there with the skill groups, and I don't know however match works, but I don't think it's going to matter, because especially November, I think with this massive content patch, the population is going to spike, and we're just going to drop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 anyway. So overall, I don't care that much. As long as VoIP's still in game, it's going to work.
Yeah, the VoIP change kind of came out of left field. Like some of my like fondest moments in this game are like getting into a game lobby and having a funny, stupid conversation with people and now that just will never happen. It just can't happen, which is
Yeah.
kind of lame. And like,
Yeah.
sure, there are outlier cases. What you were talking about, it happens to me too. So bad where people snipe you and they just say some egregious shit. But there's a mute button for a reason, and those people get banned. So I rather have those people on my radar in the pregame lobby, screenshot their names, send it to SDF, send it to Lucy, get them out of there.
Okay, yeah.
Like yesterday, we had me and
True.
Boss had it. A guy came in, said some very mean things. We screenshotted his name, and before the game even started, that guy was banned. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So like that's like a negative, I guess. And I do like the changes to not seeing names. I would like that to be optional. I would like to just have maybe a streamer mode or a incognito mode where I could hide my name if I so choose.
Yep.
I think one of the biggest problems in premium lobby is actually the inspecting, which has been
for
removed.
sure.
I think so. The problem is you get into a high roller specifically. You get into a pregame lobby. You see someone. You see their name. You see their teammates. You see their comp. You see their gear, and you are just building a meta game plan to target this comp and this team before the match even starts, which kind of removes the mystery of the in-game gameplay, which is kind of lame and boring and makes it sweaty. And I don't know. I think the essence of the idea is good. I think the intention is good. I just think they kind of missed the mark on this change specifically.
Okay, so hit or miss. Well, we'll see how it goes. I think the inspecting thing is big and probably coming later. I think inspect the normals and don't inspect an HR, and we'll be okay there. Make HR the boxes with the whales, and normals you can just run around and do whatever.
Yeah, I just want to talk in pregame. It's just funny. Did you play the end boss all the time?
No,
Dude, you know how fun those interactions
yeah.
be. Judgment, brother, you're going to get the holy freaking like just talking nonsense in pregame is just fun.
Today was perfect too. I was dropping ruins, and I knew we were gonna have a rollback, so I brought in with me like my troll pelts and wolf pelts, and I just sat behind. You know where it shows like latex monkey nuts bow and like Apollo's axe. I just sat back there and I was like, "Come, brothers, like see my wares." Like troll pelt for sale for an ox pendant. Like who has an ox pendant? And, like that part was fun. But I don't know. It'll force more VoIPing in game. So we will see how that goes. Now, what else?
What else we got here?
Good patch though. Like all in all, there's some definitely negatives, but like a big patch, and it will shake the ground a bit. And so I like to see that mid wipe, even though we have a short wipe, that they're not. They're not like sticking to one thing. I like that they are willing to change and that public outcry and opinion is affecting them. It shouldn't always, but I think they've got a good grasp of when to shake things up. And so I appreciate that.
To touch on maybe the small amount of Warlock changes they did. So the cost of all Warlock abilities has been reduced, but they made it so Torture Mastery now doubles the cost of spells.
That's how I read it.
So how do you think
I
that's
like
gonna
that.
be? You like
I think that fundamentally changes Warlock because now you have Warlocks who can freely cast Eldritch Bolt and a number of other spells without having to worry about MH. It makes it a class that's separate from its gear, whereas before you basically had to take MH. And that was like the only way to play with spells. That's why you saw so many Warlocks just doing Bach and Phantomize. Now I think you can take Bach or Phantomize and spells, but not take Torture Mastery or MH. Just cast the Eldritch Bolt and then push to melee, or like it makes it more like a smaller wizard. And I like that change. Like it has another class identity now, and I think that's really important for this game. It has like multiple build options at this point.
100%.
Yeah, I like that. We'll see how it is in practice, but I think their intent is that's what they intend for sure. We'll see how it feels in game.
Yeah,
it's like they want to have. All right, I want to play spell casting Warlock, but not like a drain tank where you're a nuker with bolts and you want to like manage your health points wisely and not use them as much. Or you're gonna play the Torture Master Warlock where you're playing curses. I'm gonna drain you to death. I'm gonna win the battle of attrition. So that's cool. I like that idea. Hopefully it feels that way in practice. We'll see though when we hop into the game.
Yeah, agreed.
Some of the Bard. So the Bard Core of Clarity buffs are crazy. So
yeah, they're nuts.
Yeah, it changed like the spell clip changes from 8 to 17, basically doubling the amount of spells you regen with Core of Clarity.
Yeah,
I think that's cool. I think it's balanced because you have to sit down while doing it. So now it's actually a reasonable spell to take. Before you wouldn't even bother taking it. It was just so Like, why would I cast a spell when I could just place a campfire for the small price of 24 gold? I could have my own bard player. That's what I would always say. So like that's a good change. What else?
The removing of clarity, I think, is good,
Oh my
and
god, yeah.
I'm excited to see that. But since resting gives you 2x spells back, and Coral of Clarity gives you 2x, with that on your team, you have 4x spells as long as you're sitting. That basically makes clarities irrelevant anyway. So I like that change. Now, like I used to do, we can finally go back to counting spells and being like, okay, Earthquake's gone. They used 4 or 5 fireballs. Now I can actually like make concerted pushes, whereas before I'm like, how does he have more holy strikes? Like what the like this is infinite.
Yeah, potions of clarity getting removed is interesting. I think potions of clarity kind of like you said, they kind of like ruined the balance of the game where you would count spells and like, okay, he's out, now I can push, and like that's interesting, and I kind of like that they're gone. But I was reading in their developer notes, let me see if I can find it here. At the end of their patch notes, they said, we decided to remove clarities to help address the buff ball issue. So that was ridiculous to me. I said that was a quote that you could read that at the end of the patch notes.
Wow.
Yeah, they're like, we're removing clarities because it's a problem in buff ball, and that to me was like, you don't know what the big problem of buff ball is. It's not the clarity potions. It's not the clarity potions SGF. It's the barbarians. Please,
I didn't see that.
the clarities have nothing to do with it. It's at the very end. I can find the quote here in a second. It was just funny. I'm okay with clarities being gone, but just reading that quote hurt my brain a little bit.
I will take your word for it. I'm still not finding it there.
Yeah, let me find the screen checker for you.
There was one other kind of random. This is definitely lower priority, but they changed the weapon animations on a couple swords, I think.
I put the screenshot in the group.
Oh yeah. So battle axe, which has usually not been used. Battle axe, Viking sword, which has actually got a fair amount of use from barbarians lately, and the Chris dagger all had their animations updated.
Yeah, so
that could be interesting.
It's interesting. It's good. So here's my main concern, right? Viking sword sucked for a very long time, mainly because the animation on it was miserable. Swinging a Viking sword feels like you're swinging in molasses. So to like try to increase the amount of Viking sword usage in the game, Iron Mace has been buffing the damage on Viking sword every patch for like 5 patches now, and now it's the meta weapon. And now they finally, if they ironed out the animation on Viking sword without readjusting the damage, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a problem if they made the animation good. So that's I'm worried about.
Yeah, my chat said they made it slower again, but because they boosted the damage, that might actually work out okay. And then you'll go back to Horsey for your life siphon. I think that's the wrong word too. It's not life siphon. What's their
the life?
The one where like the 15% life steal.
That
which, by the way, is
crazy. By the
immense
way,
on a one-hander. That's a lot, especially because they're hitting with the one-handers for 80 plus with blues. So let's just assume they're going to hit for 100 now with purples. That's a lot.
Can you imagine a Warmaul hitting for like 110? You're healing for 20. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, but it's so slow. I think the one-hander is going to be the play for that.
Either way,
sure.
I think it's in general.
Also, Warmaul got nerfed, which I think was kind of weird. It's already outplayable pretty immensely.
No, I think
and they nerfed Invis, so like I don't know. It was the one way to deal with PDR as a melee character. Now you kind of just are like, do I need to? Do I want to use
that's
that?
The thing. They shouldn't nerf the armor pen on the Maul, but they should nerf the base damage. Right? Okay. The problem on the Maul is actually the armor pen, but it's armor pen matched with extremely high base damage, matched with barbarians having 50 strength. That all these things compounded makes an issue. Like Warmaul isn't busted on Cleric. It feels pretty balanced on Cleric. Warmaul isn't busted on Fighter. No one uses Weapon Master, but like even if people were using Weapon Master, it wouldn't be busted on Fighter. It's busted on Barbarian because they have 200 HP and they have 50 strength. So, yeah, that's why. But I'm glad it's getting nerfed because they shouldn't be able to two-shot PDR fighters. I just wish they nerfed the damage and not the armor pen.
Agreed.
Yep. Well, boys, we're coming up on an hour.
Yeah, that's great. The patch is live. I think we should we dive into some crypts and do 3 wizards, or take a little Q&A?
We could do one question each, maybe. What's that?
All right, chat. Hit us with your hot takes, your hot topics. Where do you want to hear my alarm just went off saying that the patch is ready to be installed, even though it ended a little bit early. But yeah, what kind of Q&A we have today, chat? Thank you all for joining us, by the way, on the Hold the Line weekly podcast. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I've got one quick one. This is an easy one. Someone tell me why 15 bolts, crossbow bolts, are 20 gold, but 5 bolts are 5 gold. I didn't know that was a thing. Did you guys know that?
You
that's
you
new.
get just like
That
anything in
must
life,
be.
you get discount for buying bulk. Go to Costco.
No, it's actually increased.
No, it's
Oh.
inverted.
It's the inverse.
It's
Oh,
15
okay.
bolts
Alright,
for
I'm
20
done.
or
Costs
5 for
more to buy
5.
them
All
both.
right, well, forget what I
You're
said.
paying for convenience.
Paying for convenience.
Okay, so my chat asked, what is our take on whether or not the new skin is worth not having a helmet? Initially, I think no, because helmets actually provide a shitload of headshot protection. The Ruby Silver hood gives you base 3 strength amongst like 3 to 4 affixes. So probably at the lowest levels of gameplay, yes, but at like the medium to upper echelons, I can't imagine it being worth it. Helmets are very important in this game.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
I do like that they're like creating variants in races, and they said in their TLDR that they have ideas in the future of maybe experimenting with dwarf classes, which got me fucking hot and bothered. So all I want in this game is to play a dwarf so bad. I rant about it at least once a week. I just want dwarfs. I want to be a dwarf in a dungeon with an axe and just have a good time. And we're going in that direction. We have lizards, so that's cool.
I like that we went to lizards as well. Like, talk about a fundamentally different race. Like, just
definitely would have been my
lizards.
first choice, but I mean,
yeah, especially because we don't have lizards, so I can kind of feel like if we have a lizard player model, then probably on the way, maybe on the snow map, will be some sort of lizards, lizard race for us to battle.
It'll be great for my YouTube thumbnails and like the lizard wizard, baby. Let's go.
A lizard wizard.
So that's cool. I'm excited for that. It sucks because like so when I first saw that I was like, oh dude, wizard helmets suck. So I'm gonna play lizard. Fine, because like magic hat's garbage, leather cap garbage. All right, so we'll just play lizard because hats are pointless anyway, and I'm gonna get the plus 15 armor, whatever it is. But in the same patch, they finally made wizard hats viable by giving him magic power. So I'm like, if this was a different timeline and I had lizards and my hats still sucked, I would be playing lizard. But now wizard hats actually give magic power. So, we got to wear the wizard hat now.
Slayer or lizard, because they can only wear the leather cap.
Yeah, exactly. Slayer lizard. Now
Slayer lizard.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a good thumbnail too.
Slayer lizard?
Yeah.
I'm in there.
What else we got?
Do you guys want to mine with 3 lizards for a little bit?
Some post-podcast trios?
I'm down.
Just a little bit.
I'm down, dude.
Feel it out. I got to play Barbarian because I already thought they were meta, and now they're definitely meta. I'm coming out with that Achilles and the Life Siphon and the one-hander. I'm going to hit them with Achilles by throwing the lantern, and now they're slowed for 4 seconds, and I'm just sucking them dry. The new Warlock is a Barbarian.
I might play my Barbarian too, dude. I might as well.
3 Barbarians? Let's go.
I'll run Cleric.
Play Wizard.
I'll run the Nerf Cleric.
All right.
Can't run the Barb.
Time to dive in, boys.
Indeed. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode 11 of Hold the Line. We'll see you back here next week on Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Enjoy the patch. Thanks, everybody.
Let's get in there.
See you guys.
And be sure to tune in, you guys, on November the 3rd, which is tomorrow, for the final bracket of the semifinals World Tournament for Dark and Darker. And then we'll see you next week, the day before the finals.
Hell yeah.
New rules as well. You must fight bosses and extract to get points.
Oh, damn.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Dig it.
See you for the next one.